El futuro tiene nada más que la confrontación.
Hey, welcome to You Don't Even Like This Show. I'm your host, Adam Todd Brown. I used to host a podcast called Unpopular Opinion, and that podcast was this podcast. But then everyone else in the world decided they liked the name Unpopular Opinion a lot too, so we changed the name to You Don't Even Like This Show. Each week, me and a couple of guests selected from a pool of the absolute sharpest minds the LA entertainment scene has to offer use this here space to talk about whatever the hell we want. News, pop culture, politics, information, you name it, we talk about it. And sometimes my co-host Jeff May is here too. It's a blast. You're gonna love it. Hey, everybody. Welcome to You Don't Even Like This Show, a podcast about news, pop culture, politics, tech, information, guns, knives, whatever we want to talk about. I'm your host, Adam Todd Brown. Joining me as co-host this week, my favorite co-host of all, no co-host, but I do have a couple of fantastic guests. Case in point, YouTube sensation John Lewis is here, looking blurry as fuck.
Hey, I'm John Lewis, and you don't even like tariffs.
Also joining us, comedian Keith Carey is here.
Hey, it's good to be here for another episode of Uncle Adam's Bummer Jamboree.
Yeah, we got a fun one today. Hey, why am I so blurry? What the hell?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Are you in witness protection? What the fuck?
I think I cut on autofocus by mistake.
Not a good sign for the podcast that even your camera is bored, and we're only 45 seconds in.
So we're talking about some international news today. Of course, Keith and John being international global politics experts, just like myself.
I think we stole the Detroit from the French, if that counts. It used to be called Detroit or some shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they might have, I'm sure they stole it from indigenous people, so I think that counts.
Yeah, that's close enough.
And I'm aware that a globe is round, so that's how I'm ready to go.
All right, yeah. It was the worst conspiracy episode. I think I could debate that. I'm joking. I know what Shake the Earth is.
Yeah, this episode just took a turn. That's what we're doing.
Turning the Lord Jamar out of nowhere, and nobody under 50 knows who the fuck that is.
That's a brand Nubian reference, everybody. All right, so we're talking about international news, but I think I would argue this is international news that is kind of maybe a sign of where we're going in this country in some cases. Not in all cases. The last story, God, I wish, but no. But in the case of these first two, I would argue, the first one, the U.S. just tried to overthrow the government of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, right? That seems like what we just did.
Yeah, but with kids that are barely adults?
Oh, yeah, it was a haphazard attempt for sure. It was Keystone Cops shit.
That's almost more disrespectful that we didn't even try that hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know what the point of even trying this was. It seemed like there was no way it was going to work, but we should backtrack a little. Democratic Republic of the Congo, we'll call them the DRC. They've been embroiled in a conflict with neighboring Rwanda since at least 2022. And you know, it's about time Rwanda gets involved in some shit, you know? It's just been too fucking relaxed there for too long.
Yes, I just know Rwanda from some really depressing movie that I refuse to watch.
I mean, Don Cheadle's my favorite actor, so I've seen Hotel Rwanda.
Yeah, I love Don Cheadle too, but yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I don't know anything about any of these things, so I'm just being very white and careful until I see my
Hotel
jokes.
Rwanda.
That's my whole plan.
That's all I know about it.
So in 2022, Rwanda sent troops into the DRC to aid a Rwanda-linked rebel group called M23. Very cool name.
It actually is. I like that.
That's sick as hell.
Yeah. In their efforts to topple the DRC government. Very important note about the DRC, world's largest producer of cobalt, which is a mineral used to make lithium-ion batteries for things like electric vehicles and smartphones. They also have substantial reserves of gold, diamond, and copper. So it should go without saying that every country on the globe is interested in the DRC right now. And you can tell because we're all trying to fuck them up a little bit, it seems like.
Well, fuck them up the most. I think we currently are fucking them up like that. Whatever country Bobo is from, it's always some shit going on over there, like some civil war in that part of Africa.
Yeah.
It's just so weird to be in, like, we live in ostensibly the future, and the human race is still like, they got the shiniest rocks. Let's go wreck their whole shit. Like,
yeah, that is global politics in a nutshell right now.
yeah, it's all just caveman bullshit.
Yeah. And so the kind of interest they're getting, unfortunately, is the kind that sometimes compels a larger country, say the United States, for example, to maybe possibly attempt a coup of their own, especially when you take into account that the DRC already has their hands full dealing with Rwanda. This is the perfect time for us to just go in and do it instead. What's Rwanda going to do? Fucking stop us? Probably not. So sure enough, on May 19th, 2024, in the midst of all the other shit happening with Rwanda and M23, the DRC was attacked by a group that called themselves the United Congolese Party, led by a man named Christian Malanga, who described himself as president of New Zaire.
Is that a real place, or is that like...
New Zaire?
Yeah.
Zaire is what the DRC was called when they were under dictatorship.
Okay, so he's just kind of declaring himself some sort of warlord situation.
Kinda, yeah. He's just yearning for the times when that country had a dictator, and he wants to be that dictator. It's not going to be, though, because this coup did not go well at all. But this guy has some highly interesting ties to the United States. For one thing, there's at least one outlet out there that says he is just a straight-up U.S. citizen, a naturalized U.S. citizen. He fled the DRC and lived in Utah for a long time and apparently either owned a car dealership or just worked as a car salesman. And then just up and out of the blue went back to the DRC to serve as a general in the army. I don't know what might have happened here in the United States that might have compelled him to go back and serve in the Congolese army. Maybe we were hoping.
I mean, also, he could have been bored shitless because it is Utah. I think you need like a special license to buy a Red Bull or some shit like that.
Yeah. He's like, if the Jazz aren't going to win a championship, I'm fucking out of here.
Fucking Jazz in Utah is also always the funniest thing ever. The Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
The Utah Jazz is what I call Kenny G. Like,
so he goes back to the DRC to serve as an army officer. And that's an interesting turn of events. Gets even more interesting. He, again, was once, one outlet describes him as a naturalized U.S. citizen. Government says there's no evidence of that, but I'm sure there is. They're just not going to show us. He eventually had to flee the Congo and go into exile because he also attempted a coup in 2012. And that's when he went into exile, I think still in the United States, because he's got a kid, a 21-year-old son named Marcel. And we know that because Marcel got arrested as part of this coup, which is a better outcome than his dad. His dad was killed. Christian Malanga, the president of New Zaire, was killed in this coup attempt. But what's interesting, Marcel, his 21-year-old son, was arrested as part of this coup, along with two other Americans. One of them was a guy named Benjamin Ruben Zalman Paloom, who was a business associate of Christian Malanga, who was arrested for drug trafficking in 2015 and now did run a gold mining operation with Christian Malanga. The other American that got arrested is a high school friend of Marcel Malanga. They were football teammates in high school in Utah. And Marcel Malanga's mom has come out and said, oh, his dad tricked him. He was just following his dad. He didn't know what he was doing. Meanwhile, there's another former teammate of his from Utah when they were in high school who was like, oh, no, he offered me $100,000 to go spend 4 months in the Congo and be security for his dad.
I'm sorry, if you have that kind of money, couldn't you hire like a real paramilitary guy or something and not a high school football quarterback? What are we doing?
And it's got in Mr. Five names. Like, how greedy are you? You fucking trafficking drugs and coke?
And you're like, that's not enough. I also have to be the Pope or whatever. Like, I have to be everything.
This shit sounds like a Hulu sitcom or something. Like, who the fuck hires 21-year-olds as security?
It's weird how this shit keeps happening, though. I don't know if either of you remember in Venezuela. I think it was under Trump, I believe, maybe under Biden, though. There was this coup attempt where it was just like two dudes in a boat, and it turned out they were like tied to the United States also. And it was just the sloppiest shit. But we still got to be like, see how unhappy people are? They're trying to overthrow this place all the time. And what's really interesting about this is because the DRC is so wrapped up in trying to put down this threat from Rwanda, they've started seeking help from other countries. And one of the countries is us. And we have offered, or we're working on, we might have already finalized a deal where we will act as protection for them if we get rights to their minerals, like the cobalt and the diamonds and all that, which is also what we're kind of doing in Ukraine, where we're saying, all right, well, if you give us your mineral rights, we'll make sure Putin doesn't fuck with you anymore. We are doing literal mob shit.
I was just going to say, we're the fucking mafia now. It's a nice pile of cobalt you got over here. Be a shame if something happened to it. Maybe all that lithium fell off the truck, you know? Who knows? Yeah. Call my lawyer. Hey.
I love how everybody just does the same accent, too.
Yeah.
for protection rackets.
But that's exactly what this feels like. And I think that's part of the reason why we're like, fuck foreign aid. We're going to be nice to these countries so they're nice to us? No, we'll just do this kind of shit. We will, like, we know how to build an ISIS. Like, we kind of created ISIS in the first place. We can make one in fucking Africa, too, if we need to. I mean, there's ISIS in Africa already. But this is so much easier than having to be nice. We can just be like, yeah, we'll stop that war we started in your country if you give us your minerals. Crazy.
Sounds like America.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, the other kid who was arrested, Tyler Thompson, he was a former high school football teammate of Marcel Malanga, who does not look like he would provide adequate security in a political coup attempt at all. And his family has come out and said he was just on vacation in Africa.
Are these black people? These names, I'm trying to picture them.
Christian Malanga and Marcel Malanga are.
I was about to say, I don't think they make white Marcels.
No, well, there was the mime, Marcel Marceau.
A mime? What?
He was last one. We killed him for being a mime, I think.
We burned him at the stake.
There was a famous mime, and you just know that name?
Yeah, it's the only mime. He's the only famous mime, Marcel Marceau. Look him up. He looks like every other fucking mime you've ever seen in your life.
I guess. I mean, Jeff Dunham is famous, so I guess it was a famous mime at some point. I just never
he's a
knew
ventriloquist, though. That's different.
Kind of the opposite of a mime. Like, his whole deal is that he talks.
I know, it's just super niche.
Sure is.
I love the idea that there are white people from Utah going to try to start a coup in the Congo, though. And that's why it fails. They walk in the little Mormon outfits, and everyone just goes, no, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, but black people know those names. Could you pick a state that you would stick out more? Dude's name Marcel and whatever type of last name that is. Yeah. Oh yeah, and some guy offering $100,000 to go to the DRC. Like what? They just asking to get caught.
I don't want to disparage the whole state of Utah, but I feel like they read that this family went to Africa and they were like, "Oh, God was listening." Like, you know what? Like that's.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh yeah, you can do some recruiting for us. Always be recruiting."
And yeah, this could not possibly sound more like some CIA shit. The CIA loves a fucking family band. Like if you dig into anything where the CIA was involved over a course of years, you'll see a lot of instances of like father and son duos getting in on shit, husbands and wives. This is clearly an intelligence thing of some sort.
Is there a reason they go for like the family connection? Is it just like so they have more control over one group, or?
It's probably just easier to recruit that way. Like if it's just the family business, like mom was a spy, dad was a spy. Hey kids, guess what? You could be if you want. Like it's a cool job.
Yeah, and the dad can manipulate him. 21 is still young enough that you're going to do shit just to make your dad happy. Like that kid that died on a submarine. He only went because his dad wouldn't quit bitching about it.
Yeah. That part of that story is really sad because they had to delay that trip. And when it was supposed to happen, that kid was too young to get on that ship. But because they delayed it, his birthday passed. Yay!
Hooray. You're old enough, and you're also the oldest you're ever going to be.
Right. Worse.
Dreams come true.
No, I don't want to get on a fucking submarine. It's the size of a small bus. Like, what? Oh, come on, man. It's the last time we're going to have a dad and father trip. You probably going to go get a girlfriend and shit? Nope.
I do hope in the last millisecond before the thing exploded, he just turned to his dad and was like, I fucking told you. And then bang.
We hear that on the recording someday. So, yeah, once 3 Americans got arrested, our whole mineral rights deal changed. And we were like, oh, now we're going to need those 3 Americans back who tried to topple your government also. Or Trump literally, speaking of mafia shit, in either a press conference or an interview, literally said, maybe it would be better if Rwanda won. Again, that's mafia
He then
shit.
straightened his gold chain over his wife beater and went, hey, yo.
Trump is a mobster, but he's like the dumb mobster that always doing the shit that keeps getting caught. So they send him to he's like the errand boy. So like he can't stop talking about his crimes on the phone and shit. What was the dumb guy from Godfather name? The dumb brother.
Oh, fuck.
Alfredo.
Fredo.
Yeah, Trump is like Fredo he's connected, but he's so sloppy. That's why we know everything.
Yeah, he's one of those morons that gets killed in like the Layla montage in Goodfellas where they're just taking out everybody involved with the truck robbery. Right. Just hanging from a meat hook in a truck somewhere in Jersey.
So, yeah, because they still need help fighting Rwanda, the Congo just kind of has to be like, all right, I guess 3 Americans just tried to overthrow our government and we're not going to ask any questions about how or why that happened. We'll just send them back to the United States. And that's what they're doing. They originally had sentenced all 3 of them to death. And that's when the U.S. got involved and was like, you got to send them back, which leads me to believe we sent them there.
It's crazy we're getting these guys back, but we can't get that one dude we accidentally deported to El Salvador.
Crazy, right?
3 Africans, too. They definitely sent them over there.
Yeah. And yeah, that El Salvador thing is terrifying.
I'm pretty sure that guy's dead.
That's about to go in front of the Supreme Court. And if the Supreme Court sides with Trump, that sets such a terrifying precedent where the U.S. government can just disappear people to another country and be like, out of our jurisdiction now, sorry, even if it's a fucking accident. Because like they're doubling down on this, acknowledging it's an accident. And they're like, but still, we can't just get him back. He's in El Salvador now.
It's a possibility that he was MS-13. He's not, but he's from where MS-13 comes from. That's like the whole argument.
Oh, yeah, he's from South Central Los Angeles because that's where MS-13.
That's what I
fucking started.
I don't know.
I'm from Long Beach. I assure you, I'm not a Crip. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's how it works.
I swear that's the argument I heard that they're using. That he might have been MS-13, even though was he even charged with anything?
No. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think he was ever arrested for anything. He just like had a check-in and got like wrongly deported, which I feel like it wasn't wrongly. I feel like maybe randomly, but I think the government wants to test this theory out. And maybe this is how the QAnon shit happens. First, this guy doesn't get to leave El Salvador. And next, Joe Biden's there for harvesting adrenochrome. And the Trump administration is like, El Salvador's got him now. What can we do?
Okay, I don't want that to happen, but I do like the visual of Joe Biden just wandering around the El Salvadorian torture prison. Which one of you is corn pop? Like, sorry, elote pop.
Oh, man. So, yeah, that's happening in the DRC. Those 3 Americans have since been sent back here where they will serve out their prison sentences for sure.
So just so I'm keeping track, 4 Americans went over there. The dad died in the coop, right?
Yeah, the dad got shot while live streaming it on Facebook. So you know he was the dad.
You serious? What?
Yeah. He live streamed his coup attempt on Facebook.
Sad face emoji, sad face emoji.
It's sons like, come on, you fucking boomer, get on Rumble. You want to live stream a coup?
Somebody's posting spam ads for Ray-Ban sunglasses in the comments of his dad getting shot in the face.
Yeah, I wonder if the video's still out there. I bet it's thrilling. I've never seen a coup happen in person.
It seems like you still wouldn't.
Tempted. All right, let's switch gears. Talk about the world's largest democracy, India. They don't ever get enough credit for being the fascist fucking nightmare of a government that they are. But right now, India is probably the most brutally fascist regime in all the land. And they gotta be, because that country's so big. There's so many people. You cannot afford to fuck around with things like fair elections and due process. Like, you gotta take shit over. And they come at it from a slightly different religious angle, but India hates Muslims as much as the United States, if not more. The regime in charge there is a Hindu nationalist regime. They're called the BJP. I call them the BJ Party because that sounds fun.
That sounds considerably more fun than where we're going, I think.
Yeah. They're ruled by a guy named Narendra Modi, who is, for all intents and purposes, the Donald Trump of India. But again, a little more brutal. We've talked about India and how right-wing it's been getting a few different times over the course of a few years on this network. One of the first incidents we ever talked about was cow vigilantism, which sounds very funny.
It sounds like a racist joke that a middle schooler would tell you, but it's just all true.
Yeah, Cow Vigilante sounds like one of those knockoff Ninja Turtles like rip-off cartoons from the 90s. Like, oh yeah, there's Street Sharks and Biker Mice from Mars and Cow Vigilantes.
Yo, Graham, I bought that shit from Dollar Tree thinking she was doing something.
Had lead paint on it.
The udders shoot little plastic missiles.
So cow vigilantism, unfortunately, is not funny or adorable at all. What was happening, and it probably still does, is people would get on WhatsApp, and if they had like a little beef, so to speak, against someone, they would just get on WhatsApp and post a thing and say, hey, I saw this person eating beef. And motherfuckers would go out and lynch that person. Mobs of people would show up to the town where that person was and would fucking murder them.
So they're treating beef like the way like the cops treat crack, where they just kind of plant a little bag of like, you know, beef or whatever, and then they're like probable cause.
Yeah, it's exactly that.
Which in itself is hard to prove because once the protein is cooked, it's really hard to tell what the fuck animal it comes from.
Yeah, you can just spot beef from a distance.
Rubbing it on their gums, it's pure.
You're sure that's not lamb?
Turkey, lamb. Yeah. Like, what are you talking about?
Liver, be anything. And yeah, that was happening a bunch, but they haven't ever stopped innovating when it comes to how to do a fascism. And we got some recent examples of them really stepping their game up. One, this has been happening for quite a few years, apparently. It's called resort politics, which again, sounds very nice. Actually, most of this sounds kind of nice.
Yeah, I was reading like this is actually, if I was going to be kidnapped or abducted, this sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. If the opposition's going to topple your government, you want it to happen this way, for sure.
You can fuck my country all the way up if I get a free trip to Disney World out of it. Like, I have no qualms about that.
And here's the way it works is basically if there is a state government that is in opposition to the BJ Party and Narendra Modi, say, for example, there were elections that Modi didn't win. You can't just stand for that. Like, you've tried regular elections and you didn't win. So now you got to move on to whatever next helps you take power. So what they've been doing is in areas where they didn't win a majority in the state government, they will just go and sometimes kidnap, also other times bribe, coerce, whatever. They'll get like one person to flip to just leave that whatever party they're a part of. And then they'll get a few more. They'll have that person ideally convince a few more people to leave also. If they can't find enough, they will kidnap a motherfucker. And what they do is take them out of the state and put them all in luxury resorts.
That fucking rocks. I'm sorry. Like, imagine you're sitting here trying to, like, do your government job. Somebody black bags you, puts you in a van, you take it off. You're at a La Quinta Inn in fucking Reno.
Just poolside.
Anejo Patron margaritas and shit by the infinity pool.
Yeah. Can I stay?
I don't get you go back home, but it's better than nothing. Which begs the question, like, if y'all going to do all of this, why even hope? Like, why even count the votes? Just rig that shit. It sounds like they damn near dictatorship anyway. Or they're already doing fascist, so why go through all of this?
Yeah. I mean, Modi probably owns the resorts too, so he's getting a discount there. Low overhead. You don't have to build new prisons. Just throw them in luxury resorts. And the whole point is you sequester these people in a resort for however long it takes their government to collapse, because that party no longer has a majority. That's why you sometimes have to kidnap people too. If you can't bribe or otherwise coerce enough people, sometimes you just got to kidnap someone. One of the articles we'll link to, there's a story about a guy who was just out to work. They were in Mumbai. He represented some district like 350 miles away. The session ended for the day, and someone from his party was like, hey, you want to grab dinner tonight? And he was like, sure. And it turns out that guy was one of the politicians that the BJ party had flipped. And so he gets in this guy's car, and the guy's like, so change of plans. You're actually going, on the bright side, you're going to a luxury resort. Downside, your government's going to collapse, and at least you're not going to get killed.
They also Photoshop a picture of a ribeye from the dinner. Black.
Yeah, just a really crude Photoshop of him eating a steak. It's clearly like a hot dog or something, but he's fucking double fisting a steak.
Their version of the Epstein flight log is just the receipt from an Outback Steakhouse. They said there were no rules, just right.
And this apparently happens a lot in India. In 2019, Modi and the BJP brought down the government in a state called Karnataka by convincing a dozen of its party members to flee to a hotel in Mumbai and stay there until the party leader resigned. In Madhya Pradesh in 2020, the BJP convinced an opposing political leader to resign from the government, but also arranged for 20 other party members to go with him. They were all holed up in a resort in a different city until the government collapsed. And in June 2022 was when a representative from the state of Maharashtra was invited to dinner with a party leader, only to find out it was a ruse, got kidnapped, thrown in a luxury resort till the government fell. And that is actually, again, like the better outcome when it comes to this government going after you, because the BJP also engages in something called bulldozer justice.
Coming this summer to CBS.
Which is way more extreme for what they do it for. Like, so the fucking politicians get put in resorts and shit, but bulldozer justice, y'all about to find out what they do this over?
Yeah, it's pretty fucking wild. So basically, it's, I mean, kind of just what it sounds like. It's usually targeted toward Muslim people, and any number of crimes, saying the wrong thing about the government, eating beef, whatever, in lieu of, you know, arresting a person and taking them to court and due process. They do all that eventually also. But first, the local government will literally send bulldozers out to your house and knock your fucking house to the ground.
This is like Mr. Burns shit. Like, this is insane.
And it's, again, often targeted toward Muslims, and no kind of due process or anything. Practice was officially outlawed in November 2024, but are they going to like actually implement a ban? Probably not.
Oh, there's no law against steamroller justice. It's the same thing.
Exactly.
it's like school integration in America was passed in like 1968, but fucking Remember the Titans takes place like 1975. they were just still deciding to get around to it. I swear, like, if you go back and watch Remember the Titans, you think that should happen like the day after integration. It's like 5 or 6 years after. They're like, the first blacks in our school. What the hell?
We held out as long as we could.
Right. So they like, I mean, we already got contracts to steamroll these houses, so maybe in 7 years we'll get around to stopping.
Yeah. And this is all happening while on top of becoming more and more nationalist and fascist, that party is also hugely popular. So there's that too. They like worship this fucking government regime. But the country's also becoming absurdly conservative. And that is really impacting comedians and the entertainment industry. One example, before February of this year, a podcaster / influencer named Ranveer Alabadia, 31, who is described as, quote, a Joe Rogan for online Indians by the New York Times. He goes by the name Beer Biceps online. He was fucking living it up. 8 million followers on YouTube, brand deals with Sony, Skechers, and Spotify, all that shit. Shared a stage with Narendra Modi after being named Disruptor of the Year at India's National Creator Awards. But then, on February 8th, he appeared on a YouTube-based comedy show in India called India's Got Latent.
Oh, I just assumed that was a typo in the notes.
Nope.
Yeah.
It's not.
What does that mean?
I don't know, but the New York Times was super fucking charmed by that title. They were like, that is, like, they literally call out how cool that title is. And I don't know, is it like a bandwidth thing? I don't know what the fuck that's supposed to mean.
Maybe it's like their version of Riz for some shit that we don't get.
Yeah. I knew when I typed that, everyone in the notes was going to be like, oh, there's a typo there. It's probably talent.
It seems like the show should be called India's Got a Big Fucking Problem at the end of this paragraph.
So he goes on this show, and just as a bit, as a joke, he asks the following question. Would you rather watch your parents have sex every day for the rest of your life, or would you join in once and stop it forever? End quote. And with that, the entirety of India's online community decided this guy should die. It was at first just people on social media complaining about how vile and over the line this joke was. That eventually evolved into celebrities calling him out. A former pro wrestler named Saurav Gurjar wrote on Instagram that the joke, quote, crossed all lines and said, quote, if I see him at a party, show, or anywhere, neither his security nor any force in the world will be able to save him from me, end quote. I feel like that guy watched his parents fuck too much, and now he's especially triggered by it.
I like that he did that like he's cutting a promo. Like, let me tell you something, brother. If I see this guy at Hell in a Cell.
Well, you know it's getting serious when the pro wrestlers get involved.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. It would be pretty funny if, because I just said this guy watched his parents fuck too much, he like kicks my door in 15 minutes from now.
I'm safe. I'm fat. They don't fuck with cows. So I'm I will say this is all objectively terrible. And as a comedian, I'm like, this is the worst thing that I could imagine happening. But when you described him as the Indian Joe Rogan, I felt a little less bad for him. You know? Like, I'm just like, oh shit, what's next? Honor Kill Tony? Like, this is great.
Also, for such a shitty joke, he's definitely the Indian Joe Rogan.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a great joke.
It's the Indian Joe Rogan. He gets a very different kind of stoned.
And so after this wrestler threatens to fucking kill this guy, political leaders start jumping in. A Modi ally called this joke vulgar, blasphemous content passed off as comedy and said it must be prevented from influencing young minds. Another wrote online that we, quote, can't normalize perverted behavior as cool. And then 30 fucking people involved in that episode of India's Got Latent were all arrested and charged with various crimes.
God damn, how many people was on the show?
Yeah, maybe latent just means something that takes a lot of fucking work. because 30 people, that's a lot for a YouTube show. I mean, unless they had huge budget or something. I don't know.
Right, did the cameraman and shit get arrested too or something? I don't know.
I bet everyone involved got arrested.
They're arresting all the people who had like different talents that had nothing to do with it. There's like a little kid who's like, I just know how to juggle. They're like, get in the fucking van.
Right, the craft services person didn't even hear the joke.
Kicking over his fucking table of croissants. By the way, I know we're going to move on, but we can't ask the question and not answer it. What would you rather do? See your parents fuck every day or jump in once?
Sure. I would say see my parents fuck every day because that means my dad would still be alive.
I guess I just die. I don't know.
See, here's what I do. I jump in once, but I don't fuck my mom. I just fuck my dad because I feel like that would heal a lot of the problems I have with him. You know what I mean? It'd be like, all right, I'm finally the alpha in this situation, and I don't have to look at it anymore. That's one-stop shopping. Saves me a lot on therapy.
Yeah, that's a good answer. There's really no wrong answer to that question.
I mean, apparently, according to the Indian government.
Yeah, that's true.
That'd be great if they brought him to court and they're like, all right, you're facing the death penalty, and they pull a curtain and it's just his parents naked in bed.
Or they die.
Yeah.
Fucking.
Yeah.
Comedians are also getting routinely wrecked for criticizing politicians. In March, a comedian named Kunal Kamra performed a song where he used the word Gadar, which means traitor. And that was taken as a reference to a politician who'd defected from his party to team up with the BJ party in 2022. After video of that song was posted online, first a group of vigilantes showed up to harass people at the club who were watching a completely different show. Like the show was over, obviously. But not just that, but also among that group of vigilantes was a group who specifically went there to destroy the place with hammers because, you know, bulldozer justice is illegal now. So,
but hammer law is still the rule of the land.
Yeah. So now it's time for hammer justice. A little more work, but, you know, nothing worth doing is easy. Yeah. So you got to destroy this comedy club. And that's what they did. They showed up. The local municipal government sent them. They were government employees. The government sent them and they were like, take hammers, fuck up this comedy club. And now that comedy club announced they are shutting down.
Which leads me to believe they had like safety vests and hard hats and all the regulations and shit. And OSHA was making sure it was all done safely too.
Probably got paid overtime.
Wearing the orange vests.
Right.
I just know comedians too. And you know, whoever was on stage during the hammer thing, he tried to finish his set for a while, you know. I tried to do a little crowd work. They weren't into it. So he went back into you guys on the dating apps and then fucking hammer in the dome. And he's like, all right, I got the light.
That's my time, everybody.
It sounds like India is one of the places that just got comedy like 5 years ago or some shit. Because like in America, we just assume everyone has stand-up comedy. It's places that are just doing stand-up comedy and they didn't take it very well.
Yeah, it's always dangerous when comedy starts getting intertwined with crime stuff because then you're dependent on judges and the legal system to be able to determine when something is a joke. The example that always comes to mind for me is that incident where North Korea assassinated Kim Jong-un's brother, but they did it by tricking two girls into believing they were on a prank show. And for an entire month before the assassination, they filmed an actual prank show and had these girls like run up to people in public and just like rub like jelly or something on their eyes and run away. And then one time when they did it, what they put on their hands was VX nerve agent. And the person they did it to was Kim Jong-un's brother. And then those
Hi, I'm Kim Johnny Knoxville, and welcome to Jackass.
And then everyone filming that show disappeared, and those two girls were like, oh, what the fuck? And
pretty good prank.
Yeah, they got arrested, and they went to prison for a while. And the reason I bring up having, you know, needing a judge to understand comedy, one of the things that sent them to prison, the judge was like, I don't see any of the characteristics of a joke in what happened here. And it's like, all right, motherfucker, what are the characteristics of a joke? Let's hear them. Like, what the fuck does that even mean?
If the nerve agent had been in a pie that you threw at him.
Yeah. Some tainted silly string or something.
Yeah,
it's
funny.
funny.
A lethal whoopee cushion. I don't know.
Put it in a seltzer bottle if you want me to laugh. And yeah, like, tell me more about how comics in the United States can't say anything anymore. You sure can, because this kind of shit isn't happening yet. And it probably never will, because all the comics who say that shit voted for Trump anyway. So he's not going to.
Although, Trump does have the energy of somebody who would just be like, fuck it, we're sending Stephen Colbert. You know what I mean? And just put him in a catapult and shoot him to El Salvador.
Oh, 100%. That's why the QAnon thing worries me. Nazis have to do something like that. Go back and look at the Nazi playbook. There's got to be a Night of the Long Knives type of thing where a lot of the opposition gets rounded up and sent somewhere or killed. What's his justification going to be? Probably some QAnon shit and send everyone to El Salvador.
I am picturing an actual Nazi playbook, and it's like when you drop a football play with X's and O's, but then you pull back and it's just all shaped like a swastika.
You got an ass Hitler option like ass Madden.
Zyklon Blue 42, hut, set, right.
Oh, no. I'm going to send hammers to Keith's apartment for that joke.
I didn't do the Holocaust.
Didn't you?
Don't cut that out. You leave it in.
So this last story, this I wish was fucking happening here. I don't know if people remember, but a few years back, Trump and his followers tried to violently overthrow the government. And I know it doesn't seem like it, but it turns out that was actually illegal, at least in some countries, like in Brazil, apparently, because people might not recall, but a couple years after Trump pulled that in Washington, D.C., former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro did the exact same thing. He, in an effort to overturn the results of an election he had just lost, he had his followers storm Congress, the presidential palace, and the Supreme Court. But they did it on January 8th instead of January 6th. I don't know if just like the dates didn't line up or if they were just, I don't know.
The same year?
No, 2023. So 2 years later. And that was an effort to stop left-wing President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, who people just call Lula, from taking power after winning re-election in 2022. The Lula story is pretty fucking crazy. After he left office, one of his proteges became president, a woman named Dilma Rousseff. And she came into office promising to crack down on corruption and passed all these laws that made it easier to prosecute politicians for corruption. And what ended up happening is right-wingers used that law and mounted an effort to prosecute her for corruption on bullshit charges that literally every politician in Brazil was basically guilty of. And they fucking got her impeached and sent Lula to prison. And somehow Brazil still fucking pulled out of that enough that after Jair Bolsonaro attempted a coup in 2023, he has now been arrested and is facing actual charges and actual prison time. And god damn, it would have been nice if we tried that here. Just run it up the flagpole, see what would have happened. We might have had to put down another insurrection, but be better than living with the prospect of getting sent to El Salvador over our heads every day now, you know?
Yeah, I just, it just sounds like America America would always prefer to, what's this shit called? Poke your eye out. I don't know. I've been up all day. Poke your eye out to make somebody else blind. I don't know what the metaphor is called, but it makes sense that they sided with the worst possible option.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like, I mean, it's all retrospect now. There's nothing we can do about it now. Can't charge Trump now. But man, that was kind of a coward move on Biden's part.
Yeah, I'll never understand the reasoning behind it. It's like it was pretty cut and dry.
Yeah. And the idea that, oh, it's fine, we'll put down Trump by running Joe Biden again and he'll defeat fascism. It's like, I think that's not going to work out. Looks like we made a miscalculation. But hey, at least Jair Bolsonaro is probably going to go to prison for a long time. So I don't know. I don't know if that's a hopeful story to end on.
I don't know. It certainly feels bleaker than when we were having a lot of fun with the Indian fascists earlier.
Yeah, this is a good turn of events. At least some countries are fucking upholding democracy and whatnot. This is what should have happened to Trump. Bolsonaro and 6 of his associates are being charged because an attorney general's report came out about how he had direct knowledge of this coup attempt, including the parts where they were going to literally assassinate Lula and a Supreme Court justice. And he signed off on all of that shit. And now he might go to prison for it.
Yeah, it's very Brazilian. You know, they stripped away a lot of the decency and precedent, but they left a little landing strip of truth. And that got us where we needed to go. Exactly. Dumb fucking joke. I quit comedy. Goodbye forever.
And yeah, there's not much more to that story yet, just because the charges were just filed recently and their trial happens later this year. So we'll see what happens. It seems like after him being arrested, what did not happen was a bunch of angry Bolsonaro supporters overthrowing the government. So, whoops, maybe we could have done it here too, but now we can't. And God, that was kind of bleak. I think that's our episode, right?
Yeah.
We did it.
Maybe he'll just have a heart attack on a toilet. You know, that's what you can hope for.
Either that or maybe the CIA go vintage and fix shit.
It does blow my mind that USAID, which is legitimately an organization that contributes to toppling governments all over the world, why would you fire all of them and tell them to come back to the United States? Let's get the coup plotters back here to the U.S. You're just asking for USAID to try some ISIS shit in the United States. And if anyone could pull it off, it's them, because that's what they do. But also they did it with billions of dollars of government money. They're not going to have that.
Yeah,
anymore.
That's the trick.
You don't exactly lose those connections to make shady deals and stuff also.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll have to be a more indie DIY kind of effort.
Real A24 coup. Yeah. Yeah, because the money is, if you give me $1 billion, I could go take over Guatemala. I'd figure it out. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Or I would just steal your $1 billion and then use it to fight you off the rest of my life. Either way.
Yeah, whatever's clever. The point is the money changes the game a little bit.
Exactly. So, yeah, I think that is our episode. We did it. John, Keith, thank you so much for doing the pod. What do we have to plug before we get out of here? Follow me on Blue Sky at adamtoddbrown.bsky.social. You can also follow all the shows on Blue Sky. If you go to my account, they're all listed in my profile. So go do that. That's all I got. Keith, what do you want to plug?
I am at Keith Tells Jokes on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok, but I don't use it. Instagram's pretty much the only one I use. I am going on tour for the next couple weeks with Anna Valenzuela. I'm going to be over on the East Coast, up into Canada. Met a couple of you guys out in Detroit and Pittsburgh and Cleveland. You came and said hi. So thank you guys for showing up. And if you want to come see a show, check out my dates on my Instagram.
Nice. John, what do you want to plug?
Just my YouTube as usual. I'm dropping a video essay once a month and launched a podcast with an actual theme on 90% of podcasts. Mount Rushmore. Me and another homie from Detroit, we just recorded an episode, Mount Rushmore of Black movies 2005 or later. So it's up on the live section of my YouTube channel. John Lewis, spelled the same way as on here.
And I think that's it. Let's get out of here. Keith, say goodbye.
Later.
John, say goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody. We love you.